So Machi Big Brother's ApeCoin DAO proposal has officially passed. He talked about this when he was on our show maybe 2-3 weeks ago, maybe even 4 weeks ago. 11 million ape coins are going to be used to buy back apes, mutants, and CryptoPunks, and they will be distributed, or the goal is to distribute them in museums around the world to further the digital art movement. I think that this is a very good idea because it's a fact that there will be museums that will accept these digital artworks, these Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, and CryptoPunks, given the fact that there's value to them. Like, you know, the museum could liquidate them literally, instantly by just pressing a button. They're not going to, but they're going to like that. And money talks. And when you assign a price to something and show like, no, you really can go and press this button and all of a sudden have $50,000 for each of these apes, things are going to get pretty interesting. Signal, like, how are you thinking about this? I'd love to know.
I kind of disagree on the liquidity side of your argument there, as to that is a reason why a museum would buy it. A museum is buying it because a piece has historical relevance, either to a period in history, or
they're not buying it though. The museum isn't buying it. They're receiving it as a donation.
Okay, true. Receiving it as a donation, that is true. But still, like a museum is taking on a piece because it has relevance, it has cultural relevance to that specific museum, that specific country, or maybe it's a global movement. I suppose my only apprehension is, given the supply of how much is being bought, is there that much demand from museums globally to take on that supply? That would be number one. Number two, it's like, I know in our ecosystem, we think Uyghur assets are culturally relevant, but how much does the world think it's culturally relevant, and which museums want to spearhead it to be culturally relevant? So I think what will be most interesting is to see which museums accept it, how many museums it gets taken into, and what is the exhibit? How long is it there? Like Basquiat just had an exhibition in Paris. I think Eric on the team actually, went to go see it. Incredible exposition that ran for like 4 months, and that's Basquiat, and with Warhol. So it'll be interesting to see, like, if it even does go into a museum, how long does it stay there? Number of visitors. All of these things come into account. But I think the fact that it's passed is really positive for the ape community, because I didn't think this was going to pass, but it came in swinging. Nick's shaking his head.
This is just stupid.
What?
Let me donate 50 apes to your fucking museum, and suddenly it's like relevant. Nobody wants to hang a bunch of apes on the wall. Like, it would be one thing if they were like, hey, we're going to get a bunch of ape artists and support the community, and that's like the whole purpose of the thing. But like, it doesn't suddenly make it relevant. And I also think,
but it's not stupid. It's not stupid. I just think the supply is way too high.
I didn't say that you think it's stupid. I'm saying that it's stupid. That I don't like. I'm not. The whole situation is, and it's not like an artist is there's like a journey that evolves over time. This was one generative creation. This was one set, and it's just done. So I don't know. I think the whole thing's dumb. Hold on. I have something on the stove that needs to come up.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is I wasn't framing it as like, I didn't even think about the displaying it in the museum. I actually don't care about that. Although over time, once they kind of get more comfortable with the digital assets, they certainly will display those things in museums. 11 million ApeCoin at the current price of ApeCoin is $12.1 million. So you can buy a lot of Bored Apes and CryptoPunks for $12.1 million. And just think of it as $12 million is getting donated to museums, literally, in the form of an asset that, in theory, on the other end of this bear market, will actually go up in price. Nick, you might have missed it for a second. I was saying,
I heard the whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah.
I heard the scam. I heard about it. If I have a bunch of a random artist stuff that I bought, and like, I just want to be clear, like, if I go and buy a bunch of random art and I donate it to a museum, it doesn't suddenly make it like relevant, and it
But
doesn't mean
what's it worth? What's that art worth?
Well, in this
Like
case,
when you own it and you donate it, what's it worth?
well, if I go and buy my own art for $10 million, does that mean it's worth $10 million? And then I donate that to a museum? Do I get a tax write-off of $10 million because I just bought my own art? I don't know.
No, but I could just go on OpenSea and see what the cheapest Bored Ape costs. It's
Yeah,
not like
but
a secret.
yeah, but okay, but that's not created. The volume and the price currently is not driven by art collectors. Like it's a different thing if you go to like instead Blur, where most of the activity is Bored Apes being like swapped back and forth, which is not being driven by collectors. So inherently not art. That's traders that are participating, not collectors, because everybody on Blur doesn't care about holding on to anything, just like nobody on Friendtech cares about holding on to like random Joe Blow's account. They just want to see price go up. So like, I just don't put these two in the same category. I appreciate the fact that like they're trying to create relevance. And I actually think Machi has a deep network of people that have built creative assets that are culturally relevant, as we would say. And so they at least have an understanding of what's necessary in order to do that. But then again, I think movies and music is different than visual art. Like, and I just think that like how, like the MoMA, it does not have art that, well, Jay-Z's not creating it. I feel like if he decided to become a visual artist, MoMA may actually hang it. But
keep in mind, only a small percentage of the art, the art assets that museums own are actually displayed.
On display. But when they accept it, I can't just go and donate a random painting. Like it
you can if it's worth a lot of money. And it's confirmed that Bored Apes are worth a lot of money. They aren't worthless. You can go and look at how much the cheapest Bored Ape is 24/7. It's a liquid market traded 24/7. We can look up how many Bored Ape sales there have been in the past hour. It's damn sure more than Picasso sales have come in the last hour. I just think money talks. Museums are obsessed with money. And I think that this is just the equivalent of Machi and the gang or whoever's running this, giving them literal money. They gonna take it. Like they're gonna take that money. And all of a sudden they're gonna start pumping that
they don't
that bag.
resell it. That's not the way.
I know, but it's assets on their books. They want to increase the asset value on their books 1,000%. They don't want to decrease it. Money.
My favorite part about it was last night Machi was on a space and someone asked him like, "Hey, what types of museums are you trying to donate to?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll figure that out after." And then someone was like,
he couldn't name one museum.
That's kind of funny.
But so museums aren't the only place that art exists, right? Art galleries are pay to play, right? So they'll be pretty easy to get into there. And the museums or galleries, like they won't gain ownership of the assets. That'll still be controlled by the people with the DAM token, right? So it's like people that are staking their ApeCoin like super long term. And then the last thing is 30% of the 11 million, right, is set aside for non-Yuga projects. Right? So like Bodogos could buy a bunch of ApeCoin, like agree to stake it, and then try to get like Bodogos into the like curated collection that'll be going into galleries and museums.
Dude, all the commenters like, damn, Pio's dunking on Nick.
I almost feel like they coordinated. It's weird for so many different commenters to be like, "Oh damn, Pio, don't get on there." Like it's that. I mean, thank you guys. Thank you for being on my side of this discussion. It is. I do feel like there's a backroom chat that's like, "Yo, let's all like rally behind what Pio's saying right now." But in all seriousness,
why didn't they have relevance before? I guess
you're focused on relevance. I'm focused on a museum accepting literal money, which if there's anything that I know is going to happen, it's that they're going to accept little money. I'm not trying to shill a random ass Brooklyn photographer to MoMA that doesn't have any value.
That whole proposal seems to be implying the fact that it's going to like improve the relevance of this collection. That's like the reason of its existence.
Well, I know the step one though is them accepting like $80,000 assets, which like if they accept a CryptoPunk, that's an $80,000 asset. Obviously, also there, I don't know what to do right now. I'm actually facing a conflict. There's a Verizon guy that's coming to do my internet, my new internet, and my front desk just called me. Send him up. He's not an imposter. If I call the front desk, the Twitter audience won't be able to hear the show. Can one of you guys switch?
Yeah. Yes.
Or I'll just physically go get him. I'm going to go get him. You guys do your thing. I'm going to
go hang out with the guy. Okay. Enjoy your time with the Verizon dude. We appreciate that.
Real quick. One of the things I was thinking about yesterday is it looks like ApeCoin is going to hit $1, and it's basically just been down only since the other side land. What's the bull case for ApeCoin now that these types of proposals?
Listening to PO's phone ring, by the way, is like the current situation.
Which also means the Twitter audience can't hear us while it rings.
Wow.
Hi, good morning.
Hey.
Oh, wow. We're listening to the Verizon guy. Let's go.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. I'm here in your lobby. Are you in your apartment?
Yes, I am. You can come on up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
What is his thoughts on this ape proposal? That's what we want to know.
Dude, and ladies and gentlemen on Twitter, I'm sorry about that. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, we heard the whole thing, and
no,
actually
only YouTube heard it.
No, on Twitter, we heard none of it. It was completely silent.
Yeah, and sorry, there's
my
nothing.
bad.
They have me in a chokehold. The guy's got to come and do the internet, and the thing is like they'll send up a guy that's just like, yo, I got a pizza, and it just looks like a regular dude. They'll just send this guy loose into the building. A dude comes in a Verizon outfit, head to toe, with like a bunch of gear, and they're like, yo, I gotta call PO, make sure it's all good to send him up right now. Like, what do you think he's doing?
I hate that my front desk during the day, during lunch, always is like, I got a guy here with the food. And I'm like, yeah, send him up. Like, I gotta go answer the thing to let them up to my place. And I'm just like, let him fucking rob me. Like, I don't know what the deal is. Like, I mean, I wonder how many like front desks you probably could just walk in to a bunch of apartments in New York City and be like,
oh, I'm saying you
I
can.
got a bag of food.
But the reality is like they're gonna let the people up. And how many times has your guy buzzed up to somebody's apartment and it's not food? Like, I didn't order that Mexican food. It's like, no, it's always the food for the people. Like, people in New York order food. Fun fact, actually, real quick. Clemente worked here on Monday, so we're in the lobby across the way working. I was like, yo, and it was raining. And I was like, normally I would go and pick up food for me and Clemente on the motorbike, but it was raining. So I was like, yo, you want to order those breakfast burritos, that I get that. I don't think Clemente's eaten yet. He hasn't eaten the breakfast burrito.
I ate them once. Phenomenal.
Okay, got it one time. We get it ordered. It comes to my apartment. I go to get it. It's gone. One of my neighbors literally stole the breakfast burrito. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? It has never happened before. I don't know even what to say.
Yeah, but it also could be the delivery guy. No, it could be the delivery guy. Don't blame your neighbors.
He sent a picture. There's a picture of the thing sitting in front of my door. Unless he snapped the picture and it was like, ha, bitch.
Maybe it was a different door that he hung it in front of. Did you see your room number on the photo?
No, his phone was like from 2009.
I just solved the problem. Okay, that was the puzzle. I used to, at the last place, always have people delivered to the wrong apartment. That was a very common situation. And actually, the apartment before that, I'd go like walking through the hallway looking for the item that I had, and packages regularly got delivered to other apartments. Like, this was just a common situation, especially with the Whole Foods delivery people. Those people regularly would just put the food in front of the wrong door. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And jackpot for this person because they got some fresh eggs. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing that I eat.
Some straight groceries. I'm getting lit up on Twitter because everyone's like, yo, Silence is the right show that I want to listen to. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know what else I could possibly do. They weren't going to let this guy in. That I don't know why they just decided, hey, we're not letting this Verizon guy up unless you confirm it, but we'll let anybody else up that's got a burrito in hand. Real quick, Clemente's next thing here. You
did mess up. You knew that this was happening, though. Clemente should have been the one hosting the show. This is actually a fatal error that you made that resulted in that, because we could have been prepared for this moment, but we weren't. Instead,
I didn't know
that
about
Twitter audience suffered, dude.
I didn't know about the phone related gatekeeping that was going to happen with her. Like, you're not going up unless he answers the phone, amigo.
I could have foreseen that. You know, they want to make sure. The difference, I will say, is food delivery is a drop-off situation. They don't need to enter the apartment. A Verizon person, there's no drop-off scenario, which is why I actually think their behavior is justifiable, because that guy's got to come up, knock on your door, and enter it. Whereas a food person may be like, ring the doorbell, drop the bag, and they try and make it back to the elevator before the door closes. It's like most of these delivery people, they're all about elevator efficiency. That's the most important factor when you're a delivery person in New York. So they're like in and out. Like they may even the ultimate hack for the delivery people, which I don't think they're doing. You put an insert in between the door and block that shit for a 15-second period, and then you run back. Like, it's not allowed, but I'm saying it's going to make you a top performing delivery person in New York City.
But to be fair to Pio, these companies, they're always like, we'll come somewhere between 8 and 12, right? And I guarantee you, when you don't have the show, they turn up at like 12:15. Or when you do have the show, they turn up at 9 a.m. Eastern. It's just like the plumber, the internet guy, all of these assholes. They all do that. It's like they know what's happening in your day.
Well,
is he there? Is he in your apartment now?
Not yet. And it's also funny that you say that, Sid, because this was scheduled for between 11:30 and 1:30, because I would never schedule it during the show. And then they called me and they're like, hey, man, we got an opening earlier. And I was like, oh, my God, like, well, you should come. And yeah, this is all playing out. The funny thing, though,
hold on. So another fatal error from Pio that you just exposed to us, you opted into the earlier option. When did that seem like, okay, yeah, let's do that? Were you like, yeah, you realize your internet's going to disconnect during this show?
No, it's not, because this is a different provider, right? So I'm on one provider. There's going to be two providers in the unit at the same time. You know, real quick, I think it's funny. There's some people that are still on my side. Blake said unforgivable. Last time there was this much of a train wreck is when Nick had an echo for the entire show. So that's a little tongue in cheek, you know, sarcastic. I'm still on Pio's side. But then we have a defector. E. Brink said after an early W by Pio, this Verizon situation is a major L. I totally get what you're talking about, E. Brink. My apologies. I'm going to try to make it up to you guys. So real quick, I want to get a discussion going as I check what the hell's going on, because the guy is still not here. Clemente wanted to propose the question. This is something I want to hear from Nick on. Is ApeCoin Yuga Labs' single biggest failure? I think, yeah. But Nick?
Well, this is thanks. I like that it's queued up. Like I wasn't prepared for this moment here, and the lack of preparation is going to show here, Clemente. You're not saying, hey, give me a business analysis of this company. You kind of are, though. The ApeCoin situation is almost as bad as the Verizon guy situation. I'm going to be honest. And the Verizon guy situation is probably worse than the ApeCoin situation. I will say, because Pio's stock, I wouldn't be surprised if his friend tech is dropping down to like 0.01 right now due to the deep disappointment that people have. We actually see the Verizon guy in the background on YouTube now, which is pretty exciting. And so he'll be messing around there for the rest of this show, just as a distraction. On the ApeCoin side, dude, I have no idea, man. Like the real thing is like, how do we make money off of this situation? The better question here is this the low for ApeCoin, or are we going lower? And that's the thing that I'd like to know. We've been $1 has been
we're going lower.
You think below $1?
Yeah.
What's your target?
46 cents.
Are you just pulling that out of thin air?
Yeah. If you want an honest take, yeah. I don't really have a reason for 46 cents. It sounded good in my head, so I'm gonna double down on that and be like, yeah, 46 cents is my target now. That's where I'm holding steady. I'll throw some buy orders in there. But dude, what's the bull case for ApeCoin? Like, think about it from that perspective. There's only going to be sell pressure. They have to do all this shit just to get this fund into now this damn token. They have to give Machi like 11 million of this damn thing. You can't buy NFTs in ApeCoin. So there's immediate sell pressure to go and buy these things funded by ApeCoin. So yeah, I think price go down. Price go down. 46 cents.
That actually is a good point with the 11 million sell pressure potentially on this. The flip side, well, the bull
That's a
case
significant amount.
Is that there's actual utility, but who are we kidding?
Good one. Got him.
Like,
There's also an unlock someone did bring up. Another unlock in 25 days for investors. So like, there's just constant sell pressure on this thing.
I want to tell a quick story related to this ApeCoin situation,
yeah.
and that's my journey with heavy metal. Have you participated in this at all, Easy, with heavy metal
I
right
sold
now?
my heavy metals at 0.35 because I was like, I don't like price action here.
Okay,
This is PO.
so are you just gonna stay?
Sorry, I can't talk right now. Thank you.
Now you're just
sorry, I
picking
can't
up
talk right now. Thank
spam
you.
calls.
Dude, I picked it up because just in case it has something to do with this thing. I'm sorry,
The
guys.
guy
Like,
who's in
this is
your
a
room.
weird
Slap
morning.
this thing on do not disturb.
Dude, unless the only justifiable thing is someone calls it is like, sir, that is not the Verizon guy. That is a murderer behind you. He has literally escaped the jail right now, and you need to keep an eye on this thing. Go grab some defensive, use all of your BJJ skills that you've been learning over the years, and submit him. Get him to the ground. Hold him there, and we are on our way, sir. We are so sorry for this situation, and we will reimburse you millions of dollars.
I sincerely apologize to everybody on Twitter Spaces. This is not going to happen. As a weird morning. I don't know what is going on when it comes to my phone ringing constantly. It is not going to happen again. I am going to do the someone said they're dumping my friend tech. I'm going to put it on do not disturb.
You interrupted me there, and there was a enthralling entertaining story that was going on.
I liked enthralling. That was
Enthralling.
I don't think enthralling is that valid?
The audience was enthralled.
Okay, well, that's very clear. So the thing that I was gonna say is this heavy metal game, it fucking sucks. Like so now I'm entering this forge or whatever it is. It's not
the rift, Nick. The rift.
Sorry, I enter the rift, and the first time they show up, it's like head to the right, but like I'm walking around in a circle because I can't figure out what is even going on in this thing. Then I realized they literally meant actually go because in most games where they have a tutorial that usually you take a small action and it says, great job. Here's the next thing you need to know. I was confused as hell with this game and remain confused as hell. What happens is you go in, you collect elements, and then you forge them after you've returned from the rift. Hopefully you find an exit on the rift. I've never found the exit. I have no idea what I'm.
You just die in there? I never went into the rift.
You exit basically, and you lose 50% of your assets that are randomly selected. So you may have a high value item, you may not have a high value thing, but then you need to forge them, and then in the forging process, you have to. There's a chance that it doesn't even forge, so then it just fails, and you have to wait 30 minutes for the thing to be like, forging failed. And you're like, what the hell is this thing? I don't understand what the hell, this. What is the game that I am playing here? I don't understand the actual game, which is just why the fuck am I going to buy ApeCoin to give myself? I bought some stuff inside of the game because I was like, do I need to buy something to make this work? So I spent 2 ApeCoin to go and figure out whether or not this thing is going to give me an advantage. I still couldn't even figure it out. I couldn't, the whole interface was completely janky. It took and it takes an expert to figure out what's going on. And I needed to go read a handbook similar to the handbook created by D-Gods for their points parlor, which is literally click a button. They have an 8-page guide in case you're wondering, Easy. I don't know if you're aware of this.
I've read the whole thing. I was enthralled.
All right, well, heavy metal is not the best game ever. It sounds like we'll see what Legends of Mara is like. And it sounds
I'm worried about Legends of Mara. They already had said that it's idle, slow play game, and I'm like, dude, this shit, heavy metal's already fucking slow. I don't know I'm a little worried because I was excited for Legends of Mara, and I hold vessels and another deed, and I'm like, please, for the love of everything, make this somewhat enjoyable and not incredibly slow. I just want something that's a little bit more action and turn-based. And supposedly it's going to be a card game they've been kind of teasing. But, I'm nervous,
less
man.
day-to-day engagement. I like that, dude.
Well, you got to say, too, Rec League? Rec League's a 4.5-hour commitment a day. And it's 6 a.m. 10 to 11:30 p.m. and 2 to 3:30 p.m. So like that is hyper engaged. And if you haven't played every session, like dude, I've missed probably like 6 sessions. I'm like 65th on the leaderboard. You have had to play 90 minutes, all 3 sessions, and speed clicking, trying to get through each game as fast as possible. There's like the polar opposites of this. They got to find some level of balance because right now it's all over the board for these games.
This stuff is hard to make. Look, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to discuss the reactions from the recent Yacht rebrand and their imminent Ethereum bridging from Polygon back to Ethereum. Went from Solana to Polygon to Ethereum. We're also going to discuss Blur's Pac-Man breaking his silence and comparing the difference in community sentiment in Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana. Before we dive into that, why do we have Signal, not Solana, but Signal, take it away with the weather report?
Yeah, folks, today is Thursday, September the 21st. Market volume coming in at 10.6 million. We got Blur taking the lion's share as usual at 5.2, OpenSea at 2.3, with Friendtech at 10.3. So now we've got NFT volume flipping that Friendtech volume. Onto the market leaders, the Miladies are down 7%. Pudgy Pink Penguins continue their run. They're actually up 9%. Outside of those two, everything else is pretty stable in the large caps. Other movers include Other Side Vessels. They're up 7%. Digidaidaku, a name we haven't heard in a while, but that is up 6%. And Nina's Super Cool World up 30% after 2 sweeps yesterday. Over the past 24 hours, well, we just mentioned his name, Blur's Pac-Man. He broke his silence, saying the team hasn't shared updates, not to skew the timeline expectations, but they are going to be sharing some updates very soon. Onto the PFP side, Utes, they announced a rebrand with Frank calling them Premium and Playful and sharing the Figma board of rebranded iterations. Utes are holding a 0.9 ETH floor. We've spoken about Machi's proposal, obviously officially passed, meaning that 11 million ApeCoin will be used to purchase Yuga's assets to advance the digital art movement in museums around the world. Apes holding a 25 ETH floor and ApeCoin at $1.1, down about 30% in the last month or so. And then finally, the Rolling Stones published an article titled Your NFTs are finally totally worthless, showing that 95% of NFTs have hit rock bottom valuation. That is all for the weather report, folks. It is back to you guys in the studio.
Your Bitcoin is also worthless, PO. I just wanted to throw that out. It's just literally worth 0. So that's ridiculous. There's no way you're going to get any money for that garbage.
You know, that guy, the guy you've referenced before is one of the biggest podcasters, Dave Ramsey. Do you know what I'm talking? The finance guy. Like the Dave Ramsey clips do entertain. They are entertaining. Like they're without question entertaining the way that he talks to people. And one guy called in and I almost feel like the guy was trolling him, but the guy was like, yeah, I bought a lot of Bitcoin for like a really low price and I've done really, really, really good on it. Like I've been holding it for like 6 years. I did really good on it, Dave. And he was like, I hope you can get that money out, man. He's like, I hope you can sell that stuff. Like as if there isn't a clear path to pressing the sell button for it. It just cracked me up. He's just like, that's funny money, that Bitcoin. That's funny money. I got a kick out of it. Anyway, look, ladies and gentlemen, the Nifty Daily Digest has a couple of updates for us. It's posted to X every morning. Pinned up top, that's on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's also emailed to anyone that subscribes at thenifty.com. So go and make your account there today. 30 Lil Pudgies were swept yesterday as the Pudgy Penguins ecosystem continues its rally. Lil Pudgies are up 30% in the last 7 days. What's the floor on those now? Is it above 0.4?
No, just under.
Just under. What's up, Nick?
This next story is now available on web browser. It's called Desktop Player.
Oh, Friendtech now available on web browser.
No, not
on
desktop.
web browser.
No. I mean, literally, it is available on your web browser, but not on desktop. If it was available on desktop, you can get an app on Mac.
No, it's not about an app. You don't need an app. You just go to friend.tech and you can log in.
So it's available on web browser.
Here we go.
It already was on web browser. I'm just letting you know that what you were used before for the app on the phone was a web browser. It was called Safari.
Web browser on desktop. There we go.
There you go. That's it. First of all, we got the computer lingo police over here, who actually was not correct because on desktop means a desktop app, which this is not.
No, it doesn't. No, that doesn't mean. That's not what it means. I didn't say it was a desktop app.
You're like, it would have to say on OSX Leopard or what Mountain View. I don't know what's the current version of OSX. What is it?
I have no fucking clue, dude.
It is Monterey. OSX Monterey, or at least that's the one I got.
Mountain View was a good guess.
Still
Mountain View was a
dunking.
good guess.
I'm still talking, baby. Next story. Phantom has announced the shortcuts feature, which is what they call a link tree, but for NFTs available directly on the wallet. Magic Eden has launched open editions on their platform, starting with application-based drops. The first batch of artists releasing their art this week. My Pet Hooligan has launched public early access to their game on the Epic Games Store and a 12-month collaboration with Prime Gaming. I'm told to throw it easy on this. I thought that we didn't put this in the newsletter, Clemente, and you were getting barbecued for that.
I just added. I got bullied into adding it to the daily.
Well,
the daily
Bullying works, baby. Bullying works.
And Clemente, I don't appreciate that these last ones are optional because I felt like I played a role suddenly in this news sequence, and I felt
they're
left
not
out
optional
before.
at all. They're not optional.
Pio, can I move on to this next story? Can I take this one?
Of course.
So Ben Armstrong, who I don't know if you saw this. Yeah, like so Easy sent me this message. No. The thing that said that there was a thing that was going on yesterday that claimed that look at his huge house that he's in, where he said so the other day he's asking for donations, and this is like one of his like basement wings. It's like with the bar and a kitchen in the basement, like full kitchen in the basement. And he's shooting a video from this place. So we already know that he's full of shit when he comes to he barely could get out the words, call a legal fund. You know, like I'm going to sue these people and the truth is going to come out. You're not doing shit was the first thing. But yesterday, Easy sent me a tweet, which I'm pretty convinced was complete nonsense, which was a tweet of CZ saying, he's got 600 grand in his a Binance account. That would just be a violation of all sorts of laws. I don't think you're allowed to do that, even if the person is committing a crime. You have to report them to authorities. That's the way that the bank operates. They don't suddenly like the CEO of JP Morgan is not like, yo, Nick's out scamming people on crypto Twitter. Check his bank account. His Chase checking account looking real thick right now. So he's full of crap. So that total thing is complete nonsense. But shout out to him on getting a bunch of viewers. I will say, like the Ben Armstrong narrative is really shifted to him just being a complete train wreck. I wonder if anybody like actually is interested in insight from him at this point.
He's gotten 6 figures of donations.
I don't know that his content has anything to do with like alpha at this point versus
he's already
just
at 44K subs on the new channel, Nick. That's wild.
Well, I mean, you got to think what Ben Armstrong was pushing before too. Like his old content was a lot of low market cap tokens that after they were on there, just giga only to then sell off. The Zach XBT thread on Ben Armstrong got resurfaced yesterday, and it outlined every one of his deleted videos in which he showed the low market cap coin that ultimately rugged. And then they shared his pricing as well. And it was like basically 30K for a video and an interview video, what he called a virtual event. And I think 40 or 50K for an in-person event. And then he also had like a variety of other tiers. But it was basically just outlining like, yeah, this guy will shill anything at this point. It doesn't matter to him. So I'm not terribly surprised as well, because like he does have some level of following. I mean, dude got 600 or 100,000, 6 figures donation to his legal fund.
I feel like we've been messing up here, guys. I feel like we've been making some mistakes here. The honest way in this space is just the dumb way. Like, you know, I don't know.
Break it down for me. I'm curious as to what you're alluding to here.
Who are all the people that have made most of the money in this space outside of Yuga that's like actively trying to do something? And like Moonbird's raised a bunch. Pixel Vault raised a bunch as well. They're in the top 2, I think. They may be up there with Yuga. They're out there building a game that's still on deck. It looks interesting. It feels like what we had was a lot of people that raised money. I think things will come out, but it feels like we had a lot of less experienced entrepreneurs raising significant amounts of capital. and now trying to like push through. The same thing happened with like OpenSea, where they suddenly had insane levels of volume on their platform and more money than they knew what to do with, and they weren't innovating because that they were just succeeding. But so there are a few examples of like businesses that are actively building things, but I feel like by and large the majority of activity in this space is around scams, and it pays to be unethical. Like I worked at a crypto company before here, and I remember talking with like the PR people in the space, and there's a lot of just pure pay to play content where they won't say that they're being sponsored. Like, and on a lot of our calls, the conversation is we want organic content, which means like we don't want any disclosure about the fact that this is being sponsored. We want to just show up naturally in your conversation in a way where it's not clear that we paid you.
Which is the opposite of organic. Like you'll hear organic, authentic discussion, but we're paying you for it. And I'm just like, what are you talking about?
But Nick as well, I think, but I think to your point, like when you spend so much time on the timeline, you just start to realize that it's a very, very small majority of people who have the loudest voices. And then when you look at certain types of tweets, the algorithm keeps pushing those types of tweets. So you think your timeline is just insanely negative. But then when you go when you go to the conferences, which I know you've been to plenty of conferences, there's a whole bunch of amazing people, but then that doesn't seem to be reflected on the timeline. So I feel like the bad people just seem to have a much louder voice than the good people. But when you go IRL, none of the bad people are actually there. Like the annoying, shitty scammers and people that nobody likes, they never turn up to these things. And I think sometimes when you go to these IRL conferences, it reminds you there's actually a very good community there.
Oh, I agree. There are legitimate people in this space. It is just like, it is frustrating to see that like the best approach, like in the case of BitBoy, I came across him because he was on, who's that finance YouTuber?
Graham Stephan.
He was on his YouTube talking about Bitcoin basically, and that catapulted his channel to become like one of the biggest crypto channels in existence. And so he was he was the face of that, and he is quite the character. I mean, like he has an on-camera persona that like is pretty damn good. And I think that it's something that provides significant entertainment value. And it's because he's just literally an active train wreck, and you can't help but watch it. It reminds me of like that InfoWars guy.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones is just spouting a bunch of nonsense. I feel a lot of comparisons between the two. And I feel like he's crypto's Alex Jones, essentially, where he's just making shit up that's like unsubstantiated and he can just move on with. And he just throws out crazy stuff and people give him money. And part of it, you could argue, you could say, well, that was just entertainment. You know, I'm like a satirical content creator, and a lot of people know that the stuff that I'm generating is complete lies and fabricated. But if you don't know, that's on you. It always was shocking to me, their lack of disclaimers that existed on their channel, because it was so clear that they were getting paid for certain things. And oftentimes in the YouTube description, even, it wouldn't say anything about it. And it's like, wow, this person literally just got paid for this, has no disclosure of it whatsoever. And they're just making, like, I don't know, the whole situation is pretty ridiculous. Wow, it just says donation and address for new.
He'll take ETH, Bitcoin, or Cardano of all things. So he is a YouTube crypto person if he's taking Cardano. I also think that Alex Jones comparison is actually probably the best. I'd never thought of that. It's probably the best comparison for BitBoy. They're buying ApeCoin. Don't buy ApeCoin. Just send BitBoy money. Like, I don't know. Like, that's kind of him.
He's a replica of Alex Jones, but on stuff that like basically doesn't really matter to the world. Like, it doesn't screw up things if a bunch of people believe that some random crypto token is actually going to change the world. But it does matter if you think that like the president is molesting children and like does something that, or like murdering people. Like, that's something that legitimately is concerning. Are you saying? Yeah, Sean.
Someone said Sean Art said he's been right about most things. Well, I'm not taking a position here, but I do think it's a stretch to say most things. If you take a whole compilation of the whole episodes of InfoWars and string them together, saying most things, I feel like over 50% that stuff.
I hated him only because he had such an audience of people that like are willing to actually believe the shit coming out of his mouth. And they go down a conspiracy theory path where they're like, well, A connects to B through this like really like through this weird like.
Well, it's usually A jumps
connection.
Over B and gets to Z. There's like a lot of missing gaps where all of a sudden you're just at the end state and you're like, sure.
And he threw out a bunch of things, well, that actually resulted in death or threats and or violence against people. And so that's like where I'm like, okay, well, that line's completely crossed. BitBoy's at least just stealing people's money, which frankly is like, the job of capitalism, right? So if you're going to go out and steal money, I guess that's one game to play.
So we're actually still in the newsletter. Real quick, stolen Fidenza sold for 16 ETH on X2Y2, significantly below its floor price of 65 ETH. Whoever stole that said, "I want liquidity right now."
That thing's beautiful, dude.
I mean, it's
I don't
just
like traditional art. Like, I'm not a big trad art guy, but I think like that thing slaps.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people feel that way. It's basically the Grail art block. I just think it's interesting that this scammer's patience level, I guess you do have to sell the thing pretty quick since it's hot. You got to get it out of the wallet in case it gets banned or something. 16 ETH is pretty low. Last thing is, look, we talked about this in a private meeting. A gold Charizard blind bag skateboard is up for auction after recent drops, instant sellout. Leading bid is $12,500 with 36 hours left. This is going down on eBay. This is interesting. We were talking about this internally, that Pokemon did like a really cool thing where you bought a skate deck, but you didn't know which one you got. And there's rarity built into the skate decks, right? So you open up the pack, which is like a pack of cards, except it's skate decks, and that the Charizard is the rarest one. I thought it was super cool. It's cool to see traditional collectible stuff going down like that. It's fascinating that eBay is still the #1 platform for trading these traditional collectibles. It's pretty wild. Look, we're going to skip. There's a couple more. Oh, well, the last thing is, dude, the Adin Ross Kim Jong-Un interview happened. Nick, did you see that?
No.
That I didn't watch the actual
actually
thing.
Kim Jong-Un. It was an impersonator. Yeah, it was an impersonator. He broke the record for most live viewers on a kick stream at 350,000, and then immediately
hit 450. It literally hit.
Okay.
I was watching it.
Well, then he immediately set the record right after Kim Jong-Un got on camera for the fastest number of a decrease in live viewers, in which he lost 140,000 immediately after the person came on. It was a Kim Jong-Un impersonator. There was speculation that that's what it would be when people found Adin Ross's manager following a Kim Jong-Un impersonator on Instagram earlier in the day. And the guy's accent is absolutely absurd. It's like an American accent. The guy's just talking very normally. And he's telling Adin Ross he can come to North Korea and eat cold noodles and go to Korea World, the #1 theme park. This thing was just a dumpster fire, man. He got a lot of flack for it, though. A lot of people were like, dude, you literally just wasted all of our fucking time.
That guy makes weird content.
He then brings on Andrew Tate. And Andrew Tate joins the conversation. And they bring on Dylan Dennis. It was like
Dylan Dennis is like weird. I mean, dude, Dylan Dennis went from an actual big time, quasi big time athlete to like an internet weirdo. Anyway, look, first story that Clemente had served up for us is the Utes rebrand. So Utes has announced a rebrand, also shared the Figma board to show the process it took to get the rebrand complete. While most didn't mind the rebrand, there was an audience of people that said that the team's clear strength is branding and marketing, but they felt, I'm not sure how to read this, Clemente, but anyway, here's the Figma board on how they got to the Utes rebrand. Easy, did you pay attention to the response to this?
It was mixed. Some people like it, some people don't. The logo is now just a Y. And they said it's simple. And then they compared it to a bunch of other like designer brands. They had like Louis Vuitton, Montclair, Mischief, some of these others, as far as like what they actually rolled out. the logo looks good on like clothing. I will give them that. Like I was pleasantly surprised with the cleanness of that side of things. So yeah, I mean,
I will
overall,
oh, go ahead.
good.
Well, sorry. I want to apologize. Finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, I feel like overall it was like they just like released something because they felt like they had to, and this is in anticipation of their bridge because like they've been getting a lot of flack for Points Parlor being live, only DGod points being the ability to be used, and Utes essentially only having now moved 2 chains for what they've actually rolled out. So it seems like this is going to become like the shift in focus for the DGod's team is to be around Utes. So we'll see. I thought the video was cool, but like this seems to just be the game plan for them is roll out a video, do a change, take feedback, come out and say if the feedback's negative, they say we're going to pivot.
So one thing I give them credit for is they show their work. And that's something that they're very good at. And their content creation thing, we don't do enough of that. We do basically zero of it. And that's actually a massive failure on our end, I would say.
And real quick, Nick, when I do the whale calls, like I have calls with the whales and, we just, naturally get to talking about stuff. I'll be like, oh yeah, and check this out. And I'll just show like the iterative process on, the collection, like on Bodoggos. I'll show like V1 versus V2 versus V3. I'll show them like, oh, and check out this, physical product that's in development, or, oh, check out this, thing that we made for the NFT platform. And pretty much universally, everyone's like, oh, wow, more work goes into this than I thought. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, like, what do you think? This just like kind of gets birthed. But I guess at the end of the day, like, look, people are doing their own thing. People have day jobs. People are in their own worlds. They don't realize what's happening in your world. And why would they?
It is really important. And I will say that is a lesson learned here is like, show your work. If there's anything, if you think about what Luca's doing with a lot of his content, it's him showing that he's at a meeting. It's showing that he's like involved in something. It's showing the behind the scenes in a way which is curated for people to see like exactly what these moments are. But you even saw Frank tweet about him having a meeting with so-and-so. And I think that is really like an important thing to actually show that. So like, hey, if you want to peek inside some of the content that's going to come out on Twitter, it really from us at a minimum, the show your work content is an easy layup for us to actually show stuff that's being done behind the scenes. And it's just something that like a lot of people don't appreciate and or like don't even see. And so to stay relevant, you need to have those updates. The thing that is frustrating, I could understand being a Utes holder and being like, why the hell does this matter? I want to see something significant, but at a minimum, it gets people talking. And if I like, you can say, well, what has Utes released in the past year? Basically nothing. Like they've migrated from one chain. They went to Polygon. Then that deal's gone. They're migrating to ETH. So like there's been a couple of like transitions for Utes. Utes, frankly, I think is their better brand. Like I actually prefer Utes over DGods as it applies to like strength and quality of the art, the brand. I don't even like really love the characters, but people have an affinity towards it because it is simpler. You don't got scars all over the faces. DGods was trying to evolve that particular side of things, where but it's also human facial like elements, which I think is way more difficult to actually pull off because you need something that's like representative of the person who has it versus like if I'm playing a character, my CryptoPunk, people are like, wow, you look like your CryptoPunk. I feel like I look more like my ape, but even still, I don't like look directly like that character that's being there or like my Bodoggo that I have now. So I don't know. I actually am showing the work and I like, honestly, I want to make a promise to our holders that we're going to do a lot more of that because that is like a key missing gap. And it's valuable. It gives people the opportunity to talk, whether positive or negatively, about your brand. And that's something that's really good. My take on whether or not I think this is good or bad, I don't know. I like Frank's the commentary that says they're clearly good at marketing. 100%. That's their strength. That is their business. That's where they make money. So I think that is like a key thing. that they have going for them, and anything they can do to lean into that, which it feels like they're doing at this point in time, is going to work for them. And honestly, it's like we have some comparisons in that way. We just do it in a different way. So I think it's fascinating. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, especially with this Ethereum bridge. It'll be fascinating to see the liquidity. When DeGods bridged from Solana to Ethereum, that was when they really popped, right? I mean, easy. That was a crazy appreciation in price, was it not? When the DeGods moved to Ethereum?
Yeah, when they announced it, that was the biggest thing. A lot of people front ran that in hopes of a bigger swing trade that would happen. They pushed, I want to say they hit like 600 to 700 Sol, which at the time Sol was at like $20. So it was a pretty substantial move where it came out the gate. I believe they opened up at like 8 or 9 ETH as well. So it was like a pretty sizable move and set the record for the highest Sol floor by a large margin, especially for a 10K. Like really blew it out of the water with that. So the anticipation was massive. You did also see like a run up on Yacht when they initially got the announcement. So they did when they market it, they know how to message, which is 99% of the battle, and they can take a negative message and shift it in a way that's positive and to be received positively. So they crush. I'll give them that. Like hands down, one of the best marketing teams across the board. So I'm excited to see kind of what they roll out with this. They teased a bunch of like clothing with the Yachts too, and I think some of that stuff can really hit because I think the branding's on point, the color scheme, it gives them a lot of opportunity. And I'm excited to kind of see what they do next. I've always enjoyed Frank's videos that he kind of creates and rolls out as part of the marketing tactics, just because, to Nick's point, it gets people talking, regardless if they like it or not. And this space, it's one of those things like all press is good press, especially when it comes to the NFT space, because it's basically an attention economy. And right now it's very clear we're all vying for the same kind of capital. There's not a massive capital injection. So we're kind of just all trying to gain people's attention and be in the focal point, which they are hands down the best at.
Well, very well put, Easy. Sig, please.
I don't know. I was gonna say, I think with the Utes, the only thing that I'm thinking about Easy is like I don't really know like what they're for. So with DeGods, we've seen the points parlor, we've seen at the game that they're doing. I like this rebrand, I do, but it's more like normally when you have a rebrand, it's in line with whatever is coming next pretty soon. Like if you know you're either a really like traditional brand and you've been around for like 50 years, 100 years, and you're changing how Pepsi is written or you're changing how Honda is written. That's like one way of rebranding. Or you have sort of newer brands which have just come out. And I actually thought Utes has had an amazing brand and didn't need to rebrand. But now I'm just sort of thinking, what was this for? Like, what is coming next? So you have a rebrand, but what is coming next?
Well, they had teased that it's like season 2. They've been teasing that like season 2 is coming, and that's like the big thing here. So I think for that side of it, like I look at it and I'm like, whatever season 2 is going to be, the points parlor probably starts to integrate Utes in some capacity, or they have their own way to use points, which has been the long awaited question. Because right now Utes are just stacking those even more. And I feel like they almost have to give more to Utes in the short term than DeGods, because DeGods have been the one that have gained all the attention, all the interest, all the value add. Like they had Dust, which was the staking tool where people back in the day were calculating how much USD value they were making off of a DeGod. And Utes have never actually had an opportunity for that. It's quite literally just been a vertical for them to just increase their community. I mean, the Discords combined. So now you have like this whole ecosystem of people on both sides. But to me, it's like, I feel like you really have to now give back because of the long await. And that's probably the toughest part of this battle is what do they give back? So I'm very interested, but I think this is part of their season 2 that's rolling out for Utes. And obviously it'll start with the bridge, but I do worry that if it's just a bridge and then focuses back to DeGods, that could negatively affect price action, especially when you now open the collection to things like Blur Farmers and some of those other, what people refer to as like negative on the ETH side of things, especially without any positive causation to drive price higher.
Nick, any closing thoughts on Utes before we move on?
I wish them luck.
The only thing I'll add is with DeGods at last time I checked, they were at 3.3 ETH. Utes have been relatively resilient in that floor price decrease. I think because they're on Polygon, because they're kind of segmented. Correct me if I'm wrong, Easy, but in the last 2 months or so, DeGods have depreciated in value more than Utes. So I think having Utes and DeGods both on ETH, and you see Utes at they're 0.85 and you see DeGods at 3.3. I'm like, dude, that's a pretty
sizable gap. But you got to remember too, DeGods were at 6, 7, 8, and Utes high was 2. So even seeing this, my bigger concern is like you're talking about a sizable gap between the two. The way I look at it is D-Gods have depreciated more, which leaves potential room for more upside. So it's like either side of the
Okay.
coin there, because these things have stayed relatively flat. So basically, two scenarios happen. Either D-Gods stay flat and Utes sell off to continue to adjust that, or D-Gods stay flat, Utes appreciate because it's a cheaper entry into the ecosystem, but there's still no causation for Utes. You know what I mean? Like that's my big thing here. So I almost look at it as like, if I'm looking at something, I'd almost prefer to spend the 3 ETH on a D-God versus 1 on a Ute, just because it feels like it's the premier access to the ecosystem and everything they're doing. And they have the history so far of what they've actually done for D-Gods versus Utes. So that's just kind of how I look at it. I'm like, what's going to be my cause to buy a Ute here when I know that they're going to give back to D-Gods more times than not versus Utes? And yeah, it's 3x the cost, but at the same time, they've gotten significantly more than 3x the value of a Ute.
Right. And you look at the Azuki versus Beans or Elementals, you look at Apes versus Mutants, and you look at all those, like it's at least usually it's 1-5 or 5-1 is the ratio between the parent and the secondary. This is like a 1-4, if not again closer to like 1-3, which is interesting. I agree wholeheartedly. I would way rather own a D-God being the premium top asset versus like the gap feels a little off with Ute right now.
And I think you said it. It's because it's on Polygon at the moment, which is for an ecosystem that's largely ETH driven. If you're not entirely Polygon focused, we've seen projects even recently crush on Polygon. So for me, I'm like, I just think it's because they have this segmented audience that at the moment wants something that's on ETH. Honestly, I think if you'd stayed on Sol, it'd be a different story entirely too. Like that's a tough part because like they didn't really lean into the Polygon audience as much as they initially teased, which I think would have been a massive advantage for them just because there is a growing ecosystem over there that's got a lot of really strong participants and market. So I'm like, you could have leaned into that pretty heavily and it would have been really interesting to see. But instead, it's just bridging back at this point. And now supposedly they're changing everything, which I think is like, I don't know how to feel about that. They even mentioned like Bitcoin D-Gods in that conversation of like, we're going to shift everything here. And I'm like, what is the focus of shifting everything in that case? You know, like I have a lot of questions. I'm eager to see what they do with it all. Cause obviously we don't have a definitive answer for it, but I'm curious to see how it goes.
We'll see what happens. Bunny, do you have a take on this? Forgot to throw to you. Bunny.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for confirming that you have a take. Can we hear what the take is, Bunny?
Yep.
What the hell is going on over there, Bunny?
He's dealing with this kid, dude. Yeah, I will say for Bunny
I was looking
being
for
able
a
to just
blanket, man. She lost her blankie, man. So like, we got everybody searching for this thing right now. No idea where it could be.
For a second, I thought you were parenting on edibles with that chuckle. I mean, you had the giggles there for a second, Bunny.
His laugh gets me going, man.
Dude, well, between that and this morning, did you guys know that Bunny is a Jonas Brothers maxi? Like, this man has the wildest facts about Jonas Brothers. I was shocked. This morning, he had 20 minutes of conversation about the Joe Bros. Even had favorite songs picked out. I was baffled, flabbergasted.
Not surprising at all. I think basically anything that's popular in the age group of like 13 to 18, Bunny's just all over.
There's no way people that young still listen to the Joe Bros, man. That's like more of a nostalgic band at this point. I mean, we had gotten on to we were talking about the bonus Jonas, right? So
what is the bonus Jonas?
It's the other brother who's not in the band.
There's a fourth brother and he's not in the band?
Yeah, I thought his name was Jeff. It's not Jeff.
Yeah, it's not Jeff. It's Frankie.
Well, wow. Talk about a complex family situation to navigate, especially during the come up. That must have been weird. Thank you for that context on the Jonas Brothers, Bunny, and no context on what we asked you about, which was the Utes rebrand. We always appreciate your contributions.
I think it looks like the Hyundai logo upside down.
The new Utes logo looks like the Hyundai logo, you're saying?
Yeah. It would slap as a hood ornament.
Do you foresee Utes getting into the automobile business?
Maybe. I feel like we were talking about this earlier too. Like, remember the old starter jackets I feel like it would look good on like the zipper of like a starter, or maybe like a windbreaker.
You know, I actually think that's fair.
See?
Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much, buddy. All right, look, we're more or less I think we got one more thing. So we got the Nakamigos Cloaks. How many times are we going to bring up the damn cloaks? Clemente, what do you think? You keep putting the cloaks in the call sheet.
Are they on Optimism?
Oh, dude, I have no idea.
Someone showed the mint page and it looked like it was on Optimism, which I think is a massive fumble, personally. Like, I don't have anything against Optimism, but like your main collection's on ETH. Why are you going over to Optimism? That doesn't make much sense. I got a lot of questions and there's no answers.
I just think it's so fascinating that they've been able to hold this community together for the last like 6 months with basically just nothing. And this has been the carrot that they held over the community's head of like, hey, this is coming. The floor price didn't really drop at all after the snapshot, which I thought was really impressive. It's sitting at like 0.23 ETH. And after this cloaksman, like what else do they have up their sleeve? I'm fascinated by it for some reason.
They have Beeple, bro. You don't get it.
The
Beeple bump is what we call it.
Gaming rights, dude.
So you can use the Nakamigos in your game that doesn't exist. I think that's actually pretty fire. Like to give them the gaming rights. Nick, you looks like you wanted to weigh in.
Bodogos, we have a big story here. You all now have gaming rights for AAA games. If you want to go build a AAA game,
are they worldwide or just within the United States?
Only in the Caribbean. You know,
I'm gonna go worldwide with this one.
Countries only.
I'm gonna go worldwide. I'm gonna be generous with this. I'm gonna go worldwide. If you want gaming rights, you can use this clip for a AAA game. I want to be clear. If you're gonna go out and build a AAA game, you can use Bodogos within that game as long as you own the NFT of it. Okay.
Only available in Eurasia. Look, ladies and
global rights, Pio. I want to be very clear about this.
Well, there you go. Blade is referencing that they should have given universal gaming rights anywhere in the universe. I think that's a huge fumble. Huge fumble by Nakamigos.
Okay. I'm going to one-up them. Bodogos, you have universal gaming rights as long as it's a AAA game.
Milky Way Galaxy. Look, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today. We run the show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. If you want a visual experience, check out the show on YouTube. Apple and Spotify Podcasts make the show available on the go. And of course, it happens every day right here on X, right on Twitter. We'll be back tomorrow to close out the week at 9 a.m.